Easy guys, stranded in the mysterious realm of Embervale, I wake up inside a giant cowbell. This had all the indicators of a great night out, but I couldn't remember any of it. Join me over the next 100 days on a journey of survival as I attempt to overcome the challenges of Enshrouded, an early access RPG survival game. Day 1. My first task was getting familiar with my legs. I gave this ornamental barbecue a knuckle sandwich. That's a really satisfying sound. With my knuckles ruined, I tried to figure my way out. After speaking to a mysterious voice inside a flame, I was told to build a flame altar, my personal shrine. I stepped outside for the first time and surveyed the lands around me. This place was vast. I could see a tall spire in the distance begging me to explore it, and a mysterious fog enveloped the lowlands. I'll have to find another way down here. I worked my way down through a cave system while the tutorial tried to teach me everything I needed to know to get started. Explosive balls for clearing earth and rubble, and a hatchet for combat and cutting trees. I hacked through a couple of ghouls and made my way outside. I started gathering stones to make this flame altar, but I was attacked. I wish people would keep their dogs on a lead. It took me far too long to figure out the building system, so long in fact that the sun had already set, but I had no bed and no shelter, so I had to work through the night. I couldn't hold a torch simultaneously as a tool, so progress was slowed. I looked out over the horizon. More of this mysterious shroud lay yonder, some blue, some red. There was plenty out there to discover, but I had to crack on with the base. Day 2. I finished a simple 3x3 hut with a stone floor as morning broke. With a roof finally over my head, I began crafting some extra items. I only had a hatchet, so I built a magical wand for some range damage. I also needed to stop running around in my underpants. I tried to craft some simple clothes, but I needed to find torn cloth. I looked around a ruin called Longkeep near my base. It had pockets of shroud around it. It turns out this foggy stuff was toxic. Shroud had many similarities with a Nickelback concert. After I went inside, I only had 5 minutes to live. Stepping back outside again renewed my timer, but I was cautious about getting stuck in the shroud with no way to get out. I continued searching, finally plucking up the courage to creep into the shroud. There were ghouls here, and I was trying to time my parries, but I missed my window. These things hit quite hard, and while I defeated one, another backstabbed me. My first death. I respawned at the last altar I visited, and it seemed I kept all my items on my action bar. However, I had a chance to lose items in my backpack, which could only be retrieved by returning to the place of my death and collecting them once more. I claimed my revenge, items and torn cloth from the ghouls, and with it, I finished my armor set back at base. Peak fashion. It wasn't flashy, but it would do for now. Something to think about tomorrow was storage in the base before my backpack filled up with too much stuff. Day 3. I continued my investigations into storage. The initial tiny chest was a great place for me to start dumping some of the resources from my inventory, and it was relatively cheap. Another thing I wanted to try was the glider. It sounded like fun, but I was missing a vital ingredient, shroudwood. Any guesses as to where I would find that? I proceeded along the cliff's edge until I found a way down into the shroud. I tested the wand as I went. It felt much easier to take down enemies from afar without getting hit. I started hacking away at the first tree I found at the edge of the shroud. Yes, this is what I was looking for. I made my way back to base. As I used weapons and tools, they took durability damage, but they could be repaired again by simply clicking on the workbench at the base, free of charge. I built an extra storage box for the crafted items and added a fireplace, which is a perfect addition to my almost 100% wooden house. What could go wrong? After that, I crafted the glider. I could sense an adventure on the horizon. I still had limited resources, and if I wanted to sleep the night away, I would need a bed, which meant more torn cloth. So I had to nip out for a quick midnight massacre before I had enough resources to make one. Day 4. I carried a journal on my person with a list of quests that had been building up. One of them was to travel through the shroud and find someone to help me with my base. I made my way down to the shroud below, and I encountered a new enemy, a raged archer who did a tasty chunk of damage. My wand could do little to deflect his attacks, so perhaps this wand wasn't as advantageous as I first thought. I ate some berries, the only food I had found that regenerated my health. The other foods provided buffs such as increased stamina level and recharge rate. As I approached the quest waypoint, the game told me I could hide in the bushes to avoid enemies. Instead, I received a face full of wasps. Someone else here was trapped in a cowbell. I released him quickly and travelled back to my flame altar. Back at base, I could summon this character to stand in the corner. a blacksmith, giving me new crafting options such as armor and tools. It turns out he had a new quest for me in my journal, something about cleansing the Valley of Shroud. Day 5. As dawn broke, I awoke to find the blacksmith's unyielding gaze fixated upon my bed. I realised I had some skill points to spend in what looked to be a varied talent tree. I enjoyed magic caster builds, so I started putting points in that direction. The blacksmith could offer some new things. He could make a small magic chest, meaning I could craft anywhere in the base from items within it. He also made a felling axe, a pick for chopping wood and mining minerals more efficiently than my current hatchet, and finally, a charcoal kiln. For all that though, I needed resources, so off I went. I soon found a wooden structure against the edge of a cliff, presumably to aid people up the cliff face. It looked in a bad state of repair, and I couldn't climb it. It was probably simple to dig upwards with my new pick, but I passed on it for now, noticing it had a grappling hook attachment, something else I needed to build. Alas, the day was ending, so I set off for home. Day 6. Today started with sightseeing amidst the eerie lowlands of the Shroud, where twisted forms haunted the landscape. After a brief exploration, I crossed a broken bridge and found another grappling hook spot for my build list. Exploring further, I found more flame shrines and a flint wall. Though unsure of its use, I collected some flint just in case. Below I saw something new, Rookmore. I tested my new glider on the way down. Sickness. The formidable enemies here nearly got the better of me, but I managed to collect valuable metal scraps from them. I needed these. Now I'm not sure what happened next, but presumably I rummaged in my action bar too hard and dropped one of my explosive balls, causing me to detonate spontaneously. I returned to the site of my death and collected my things. I needed that scrap metal, allowing me to build a forge when I returned home. I built 2 grappling hooks, one for the bridge and one for the wooden structure, then headed for bed. Day 7. This morning I placed the forge I built yesterday, squeezing it into a tight space, leaving little room for the blacksmith. But much like a chicken in a battery farm, I figured he'd be fine as long as he had room to turn around. Once. I then realised I only needed to build 1 grappling hook instead of 2, as they were equipable, not consumable. Despite this, I continued exploring and encountered another scavenger camp. I fell victim to a skilled crossbow scavenger who gave me a right seeing to, followed by another out-of-control dog. I needed to up my combat game. Aware of the wolf's presence, I gathered loot and explosives before continuing onward. I encountered another scavenger camp with a mine shaft nearby, and despite the challenges posed by the higher level wolves, I pressed forward, encountering a massive cave entrance that drained my shroud timer rapidly. Was this a deadly shroud? I resolved to prepare for it later and continued on, utilising my new glider wherever feasible. Continuing on, I stumbled upon an abandoned farmstead named Peaceful Acres. Despite the tempting crops, I hesitated, wary of the tear-out tooltip. That sounded pretty terminal. I pondered their potential usefulness for future farming endeavours and left them untouched for now. The allure of these houses sparked thoughts of claiming one for myself, perhaps by marking it with my flame altar, but I deferred that idea for another time. As darkness fell, I rested in a dusty bed upstairs, grateful for the solitude compared to the previous night's unsettling encounter with the blacksmith's longing gaze. Day 8. After a night at Peaceful Acres, I refreshed my food buffs, each offering unique bonuses like magic damage or stamina regeneration. Despite my worn wand, I dispatched the wolves outside with a melee weapon instead and continued towards the Woodguard quest marker. As I approached the church, I saw a creature at the altar, expecting it to be a boss of some kind. I elected to polish off my magic wand, which was already close to breaking. It was my most potent weapon. It finally broke, but not before I downed the creature. Exhausted, I fast-travelled home to repair my wand, still needing to organise my storage. I considered crafting a magic chest which required materials from another trip into the Shroud, so off I went, gathering Shroud liquid during my journey. I focused on managing my Shroud timer, taking a brief break on a hill. I replenished my timer before diving back into the mist. After acquiring the necessary tools, I built a magic chest at home. This chest enabled me to craft items used in storage instead of carrying them. I grilled food on the fire for stat bonuses before retiring for the night. Day 9. Utilizing my glider, I flew towards the elixir well to heed the blacksmith's whining, doing my best to minimize my time in the Shroud. Encountering a couple of two-handed hobos in the mist, I felt that one. As I ascended the well, I discovered a return beacon which replenished my Shroud timer and served as a local area respawn point. However, that also signaled imminent death, so I remained vigilant. I'd made my way down into the well structure. As I reached the bottom floor, I was ambushed by this absolute unit, a Fell Thunderbrute. Imagine having a name like Fell Thunderbrute. Dr. Thunderbrute is ready to see you. Anyway, he didn't have much health, but he hit like a truck. I tried doing some jumpy dodge nonsense, but Fell was having none of it. He gave me a swift kick to the cobblers before sending me back to bed, stoved. On my second attempt, I topped up my buffs and went to find my new pal Fell. This time, I dodged, but this used way too much stamina, drying me out quicker than a wet fish in a salt mine. Is it third time lucky? I used my jump technique this time to evade his attacks, kiting him with a wand until finally, Bisto. Using my felling axe, I cleared the shroud route in the well, but to my dismay, the shroud remained thick in the rest of the valley. I hoped this would have had more tangible results in the world. As I fast-travelled home, I kept my friend Fell's head in a bag as a reminder, never forgotten. After learning some combat lessons, I equipped a shield with my wand for increased survivability. Day 10. I set out on my morning adventure, heading towards the towering structure I'd seen since the game's start. I had a new shield now, and I was eager to test them in combat. Along the way, I also discovered a new apprentice wand, boosting my damage. The tower was massive, an ancient spire. What was this place? Inside there were different obstacles and puzzles, including dodging lava and time challenges, which guarded various buttons I needed to press. In turn, those unlocked more doors leading further up the tower. Despite falling into lava twice, scorching my plums, I eventually reached the top of the tower. There was a lot of that deadly red mist around, and I didn't know how to deal with it yet. I wanted to jump off with my glider, but I'd be taking a nap in the shroud if I didn't have enough stamina. Once I'd lined up where I wanted to go, I jumped, free-falling most of the way and spreading my glider closer to the ground. Yeah, that was fine. Next time I'll see if I can glide all the way. I also discovered I could steal sparks from flame shrines to upgrade my altar, a revelation after passing so many unnoticed. Upon returning home, and with some guidance from the blacksmith, I'd learned to break down the items I didn't want to use into runes. These in turn could be used to upgrade items I wanted to keep, like my wand. Day 11. Today I farmed the remaining materials to upgrade my flame altar and completed the upgrade. I could now spend 6 minutes in the shroud, up from 5. I invested skill points into athletics for extra sprint speed, although I still longed for the double jump. As I journeyed, I collected sparks from mist flame shrines and honed my shield mastery to reduce damage. Next, I approached an ancient vault housing a trapped alchemist, navigating through a bandit camp and improving my shield skills before freeing the alchemist. Returning home, as darkness descended, I settled in for the night. Day 12. In the morning, I summoned Balthazar the alchemist with the summon staff, noting his uncanny resemblance to the blacksmith. I hoped he would be less grumpy. I explored Balthazar's offerings of wands and staffs and magical items. I was particularly interested in his apprentice armor, with its set of magical damage bonuses. I fashioned a pointed hat before focusing on missions in the eastern part of the map. There was another minion from my camp that needed saving, the Hunter, imprisoned in an ancient shrine amidst the shroud. I had upgraded my flame altar as well to gain an extra minute of shroud time, but time was still of the essence. This was a mistake. I rushed out of the map screen and ran straight into Red Shroud, which killed me almost instantly despite jumping out. I glided down to retrieve my belongings and pressed onward despite limited visibility. It turns out that I was in the wrong place all along. The Hunter mission might not be within the shroud at all, but on an elevated landmass. I returned home as daylight waned, planning to attempt the mission again the following day. Day 13. Still determined to free the Hunter, I devised a new plan, using the ancient spire to glide across the map, a distance I hadn't attempted before. I launched myself, realizing I could cover more ground with my stamina than I initially thought. Spotting the castle structure where the Hunter was located, I decided to clear out enemies around the perimeter, including a new creature I hadn't seen before, a Vuka, who resisted the cold magic of my wand. Taking advantage of a nearby cave for rest, I approached the ancient vault. These guys were hard to kill. Another Vuka. Man, to make matters worse, I found another pair, one of whom was some kind of healing shaman who healed his hedgehog kin as I fought. Prioritizing his defeat, I swiftly dispatched him before turning my attention to his companion, who offered less resistance now. Navigating through a more intricate maze of traps, I leaped over a pit of death after pushing a button, finally freeing the Hunter from their cowbell prison. After swiftly returning home and placing the Hunter with the summoning staff, I couldn't help but notice their grumpy disposition. Perhaps I'll leave you in your urn next time. With my growing collection of grumpy allies, space in my house was becoming limited. though not an immediate worry. Day 14. I set off on the hunter's new quest, going to a salt mine. Once more I utilised the ancient spire, gliding down to my destination before continuing on foot. Despite the challenging terrain, I found jumping and rolling to be effective methods for navigating steep surfaces. Descending deep into the shroud, I located the entrance to the salt mine, only to be greeted by a horde of formidable level 5 creatures. Though feeling the pressure, I pressed on, determined to overcome the obstacles before me. Discovering a chest further ahead, I unlocked a new wand, but I lost my footing on the return journey and fell. Panic set in as my shroud timer dwindled, and I found myself disorientated in the darkness, racing to find the nearest exit. Since I was already there, I decided to explore a well on the way, hoping to encounter another boss like my old friend Dr. Thunderbrute. Instead, I found ghouls surrounding a corrupted route. Utilising my wand to pick them off, I descended into the fray, facing off against another wizard before emerging victorious. With the shroud cleared, I fast-travelled home, relieved to leave the treacherous depths behind. Day 15. After my salt mines adventure, I considered upgrading my flame altar for extra shroud time. Next, I sought out the farmer, flying from the ancient spire to their location and proceeding on foot. Inside the prison, I encountered more locked door puzzles protecting the farmer, involving fiery pits and moving obstacles. Due to my lack of patience, I croaked it before running back to my body, but hammering my stamina as I rushed back caused me to fall and burn my buns on the hot coals. To make matters worse, I was now running low on berries I used to bring my health back up. I collected my items, mastered the puzzle timings, and found a button to open the door. But after gliding all the way back down to the bottom again, I realised there were 2 more buttons I had missed. I backtracked through the puzzles again, found the missed buttons, and eventually freed the farmer from their cowbell prison. Returning home, I placed the farmer in the corner, noting her potential to assist in food production. I then discovered the alchemist could craft multiple armour upgrades, not just the hat I had made previously. I was still learning the menu system, and completed the rest of the magic set. Day 16. Delving deeper into upgrading my flame altar, I discovered the next level would grant an extra minute in the shroud, with the required materials being reasonably obtainable: wax from beehives and salt from the mines. Initiating my bee-related heist, I raided hives for honey and wax, much to the dismay of the local bee population. Venturing into the shroud for shroudwood, I cleared the area of enemies before collecting what I needed. With only salt left to collect and the sun setting, I utilised the remaining daylight to cook meat. Reflecting on my full coffers, I acknowledged the need for more storage, a task reserved for the following day as I called it a night. Day 17. I headed to the ancient spire to address the salt issue. Aiming for the salt mines, I glided from point to point, barely making it across the shroud before landing precariously on the cliff's edge. I tried to reach higher ground but slipped and met my fate in the shroud below, losing some items from my backpack. After respawning at the ancient spire, I set out to retrieve my items, but I couldn't locate my body in the shroud. I then realised my items likely spawned halfway up the cliff, at my last known safe position. Son of a... I fast-travelled back to the ancient spire and attempted to find my way up the cliff, but failed. Back I went to the ancient spire, and I tried again. There had to be an easy way to get my stuff. Landing into a quick roll, I managed to get up the mountain, and there it was. My gear. This was going to be interesting. I shuffled down, ready with the E-key to grab my stuff. Balls! I managed to grab my stuff though. You have fallen. Yes. Yes, I did. Back to the spire, Batman, to claim my stuff again. Where was my gear going to be? There it was. You absolute spanner. How am I going to get that? I flew across again. Up, and up. Good. Now for the gear. Slowly does it. Stay on the cliff. Yes. Now for the salt mines. I glided down into the shroud. I got a haircut off this ghoul with his two-hander. Nope. Ooh, you witless dishcloth. Returning to the spire, I landed and swiftly dispatched the nearby ghoul. But where was his friend? With little time to spare, I hurried into the salt mines, facing challenges along the way. With limited time remaining, I struggled to locate the salt amidst these enemy encounters. What was I looking for? I had just arrived, but already I had to get out again with 30 seconds left to escape the shroud. I didn't know how to get out. I attempted to climb out, but it was too late. Back to the spire. Dropping down from the left might have been easier, but I needed my stuff. Having cleared the mines recently, I sprinted up the stairs, aware of the ticking clock. With 3 minutes remaining, I searched frantically, hacking at the wall only to find mycelium. I spotted the salt just in time and hastily gathered as much as possible. Attempting to find an exit, I realised going up wasn't the solution. Unfortunately, my fate was already sealed, and I returned to the spire again. Retrieving my stuff was easier this time. I was just seconds away from safety, fast traveling home. What a day. I decided to call it a night. Day 18. To my dismay, I discovered I needed 2 more ingredients to strengthen my flame altar. That included a scavenger matron's head. I searched the nearby scavenger camp but found no matrons. I pondered where on earth I was supposed to find a scavenger matron. Rookmore? Tinder? Somewhere else I hadn't been yet. With no joy, I shifted my focus to establishing a new base due to my ongoing storage challenges and quest markers getting ever further away. I chose a centrally located mountain spot the farthest north I had explored thus far. Using the ancient spire, I glided down towards the base of the mountain, landing on an island midway. I grabbed a spark from the shrine and continued down towards the mountain's base. On the way, I spotted a camp with log walls. Suspecting it could be a scavenger camp, I decided to investigate. Confirming my suspicions, it was indeed a scavenger camp, and I cautiously navigated it, engaging in mid-range combat to avoid melee threats. Ooh, there she was. I was in luck. I just had to convince her to give me a head, but I had to find a location. As I worked my way up to the top of the camp, I sensed she was close. I jumped out. Hiding behind my raised shield, I gave her a massive wanding. She threw poison everywhere, but I managed to evade it. After retrieving the matron's head and fast-traveling home to strengthen my flame altar, I could now spend 7 minutes in the shroud. Day 19. Gathering building materials, I continued with my second home project. Heading to the ancient spire once more, I approached the mountain I had in mind for my new abode. Upon arrival, I faced the challenge of scaling the vertical cliffs, determined not to repeat past mistakes. I cautiously carved a path upwards, desperately jumping around like I had a bee in my trousers and doing my best not to fall. I went to the other side of the peak. Oh, not again. Balls! Frustrated, I returned to the ancient shrine and hacked my way back up, this time creating a more stable path. Finally reaching a suitable spot, I attempted to place the flame altar, but the uneven ground forced me to locate it to the flatter area below. With the altar in place, I prepared to fast travel to this location the next day to begin construction. For now, I fast traveled home and rested. Day 20. I flattened the mountain peak using terrain tools and laid stone floor foundations, planning a staircase near the flame altar. I continued carving out the first floor from the cliffside. Although the day ended before much progress, I could quickly return tomorrow to continue work. Day 21. I began work on the ground floor, constructing a staircase leading to the first. Uncertain of the final appearance, I knew I could expand the first floor later if needed. I appreciated the flexibility of the building tools, enjoying how blocks blended and the terrain manipulated easily. It's incredible how quickly the day goes with building. Day 22. I expanded the ground floor, adding pillars for depth of interest and positioning the main entrance. Stone walls and windows were next on the agenda for this level, and although unsure of the roof's final design, progress was promising. Gathering wood and twigs for the upper floors, I aimed for contrasting timber roofing. Despite initially overdoing the roof overhang, I adjusted it and continued roofing until the daylight ran out, marking the end of the day's work. Day 23. I gathered wood and twigs to start the day. Before continuing roofing, I added details like beams and stonework using small 1-meter blocks to enhance visual interest. Then I progressed with timber walls and additional roofing. Day 24. I used cheap scaffolding to continue the roof, trying to add details for extra authenticity. The detailing tool allowed me to create new windows in existing walls, and the building tools here felt flexible. Expanding the second floor, I made significant progress on the roof. After days of planning, it was finally coming together. Day 25. The house had taken shape, resembling 2 interconnected buildings. Almost like a chapel, but there was no holy worship here, only chaos. With the exterior walls and detailing complete, I turned my attention to the interior. Day 26. I tried moving the altar inside, but I struggled with it. I eventually gave up and placed it outside. Turning to the crafting menu, I made torches and candles to brighten up the dark interior of the house at night. Day 27. I placed torches inside the house for light, but it still felt cold. The house seemed too large, and the fireplace was already the largest I could build. Unless I filled the house with fireplaces, which would look odd, I'd have to endure the chill for now. Despite the cold, the shelter provided a rested bonus, boosting my total stamina and recharge rate for a short period. On the second floor, I placed a bed with a fireplace. Additionally, I began working a new storage area, addressing a pressing need that my original home lacked. Day 28. I ventured into the Shroud for Shroud cores and liquid to expand my magic storage. I transferred all the items from my first base to the second with magic chests. Now I only needed to place my captured slaves and their tools. My next mission? A farming project out front. Day 29. With farming in mind, I retraced my steps to locate old farm plots in various locations I discovered. Pulling up all the available plants, I replanted them back home, targeting Woodguard and Peaceful Acres for Project Pillage. Having located all the plants, I started growing what I could find. Though the water might be problematic, I had only found one well so far. Perhaps I needed to find more to expand on my farming. Before calling it a night, I planted some berry plants. Day 30. After a night in my new home, I tended the farm and grilled food. After days of building, I felt like I needed some exploration. So I headed out to a hidden question mark on my map, an ancient obelisk. Deeper into the shroud, I spotted glowing orange on a rooftop, indicating a new building block. Is this the way I unlock new building materials? Navigating through the dense shroud on foot, I narrowly missed some of the deadly shroud on the floor. I faced some high-level ghouls. Gaining levels seemed quite slow thus far, although in fairness I had handled a few level 9s without too much difficulty. Falling into another shroud gotcha hole, I found my way out, narrowly gliding over a dark shroud lake. With my shroud timer getting low, I drank a flask of shroud protection I'd found, hoping it could help, but it didn't, and I perished again. Upon respawning, I realized I was actually pretty close to safety once again, but with the day ending, I swiftly returned home to rest. Day 31. Setting off on another adventure, I aimed to explore more question marks, despite the deadly shroud in my path making things complicated. Thankfully, I leveled to level 6, unlocking the double jump skill, which proved useful for helping navigation puzzles. Encountering another ancient spire, I hoped it would unlock new locations like the last time. The double jump helped me evade spike traps as I ascended through puzzle rooms before reaching the top. Day 32. Today I fast traveled back to the spire to unlock a new wizard staff spell, an Eternal Bolt. Despite not using my staff much, the new ability seemed promising with infinite charges. Navigating through a challenging tomb filled with powerful enemies, I finally acquired it. However, I hit another dark shroud on my way out and fell into the hidden stream, resulting in my demise. Thankfully, I retrieved my gear easily and escaped the shroud. Continuing my exploration, I ventured into Mistbury Catacombs, leaving further investigation for another time. Day 33. Today I set off for the Mistbury Catacombs. After lockpicking the door, I was rudely greeted by Legolas the Archer. I moved around the edges, taking care of enemies on my path. As I descended to the lower levels, the shroud crept in. There were deadly shroud patches on the floor. I had difficulty spotting some of them, as usual, until it was too late. As I moved around, I found various button puzzles to which I had become accustomed. 4 buttons needed to be pressed to open the main door. I started using my staff with its Eternal Bolt more these days for ranged attacks, although the firing animation kept pulling my character forward, leading to a few embarrassing falls. Eventually, I opened the reward room and the chest. My reward was revealed, a new shield. This would do nicely. Day 34. Today I aim to explore farther north, perhaps reaching the ancient tower. Along the way, I noted a tower in the shroud that caught my eye for future exploration. As I progressed, I discovered new plants like flax and indigo seedlings, and collected them for my farming efforts back home. Eventually, I stumbled upon Willow Crush. I kept my shield raised, expecting a frosty reception. Scavengers. Many were resistant to my cold damage, and in the back of my mind, I was considering some kind of fire build. I'd always loved fire. But for now, this would do. The raiders here granted me ample XP and another level. However, my exploration was cut short when I inadvertently triggered an explosion from nearby barrels, ending my journey abruptly. Day 35. Today, I retrieved my belongings after a long journey back to my body. Once done, I cleared out the remaining enemies at Willow Crush. Afterwards, I explored the surrounding area, following the cliff's walls for guidance. Eventually, I returned to Willow Crush to set up a flame altar for fast travel convenience the next day. Day 36. I fast traveled to Willow Crush, discovering 2 chests beneath the altar. Nice. This sparked an idea. I suspected chest loot respawned upon re-entering the game, just like enemies did, prompting me to relocate my altar slightly out of reach to exploit this mechanic for fresh loot daily. Then, with a larger goal in mind, I aimed to reach the ancient spire of Revelwood to the north. Crossing a nearby bridge, I was ambushed by a gang of hoodlums who tossed me around like an empty shopping bag. I returned to the site of my passing. Perhaps I could aggro the enemies and jump back to a safer platform. You've got to be kidding! Was that a swarm of bees? Where did they come from? After some tactical maneuvering, I cleared the enemies and ventured into the ruins beyond the bridge. Despite encountering some more formidable foes resistant to my frost spells, I pressed on, determined to find the ancient spire. As daylight waned, I erected a flame altar for fast travel convenience before returning home to repair my worn wand and prepare for the next day's adventures. Day 37. Fast travelling back to Willow Crush, I found the chest had respawned, granting me a better staff amongst other loot. Upgrading it at home, I set out towards the Revelwood spire. While journeying, I stumbled upon a cave marked on my map, where I stuffed my pockets with various dodgy mushrooms like Azure Azula. I went deeper inside before encountering a nest of spiders that proved challenging due to their numbers. I was actually starting to get pushed back. Disappointingly, even my mighty explosive balls were ineffective. These balls were so underwhelming. After retrieving the hunter's hand spindle that I found inside, I was forced to retreat. Exhausted, I sought refuge at home for the night. Day 38. Retracing my steps, I looked for the ancient spire once more in the dense woodland, its grandeur obscured by the towering trees, until eventually I saw it. After overcoming some puzzles, I reached the spire's peak where I found a new staff and enjoyed the breathtaking view. I revisited the Willow Crush chests for some new loot, after which I decided to farm some XP from the newly spawned scavengers. Despite being ambushed by rats, I managed to kite them and gain another level. While ice magic was effective against scavengers, the skill point build I had made for myself since day one wasn't great, and I had a continued hankering for fire damage. Back home, I experimented with farming, using the increased water supply to grow strawberries for improved health regeneration. Placing the hunter's missing hand spindle in her abode revealed a discovery, the need for linen, which required flax. Venturing out again, I followed a quest marker to a familiar cave. I recognized this place, but the shroud was red back then, but now it was blue. Inside, I found a shroud root that rewarded me with a skill point upon chopping it down. As night fell, I returned to my old starter home and rested for the night. Day 40. I encountered another unguarded shroud root to the east, defeating it and earning myself a skill point. Next, I pursued a quest to rescue a carpenter near the ancient spire. I had difficulty locating the entrance, but I eventually confronted a screeching witch. I struggled to evade and block the witch's attacks, resulting in a tough battle. But I returned to the fight eager to learn, doing my best to roll from her attacks. On the next witch, I used some of my explosive balls, but I found them completely ineffective. Balls! After a struggle, I saved the carpenter and began planning new crafting projects. Back home, I crafted an improved grappling hook and considered a more efficient glider. This new glider was faster, with 50% more range, but required shroud sacks, which I needed to find. Day 41, I ventured north, stopping by a flame shrine to collect its spark, before approaching the eerie tower in the shroud. I explored it to retrieve the mortar and pestle for the alchemist quest. I imagined this place full of enemies, but it was surprisingly quiet. I found a fire wand on the top floor, and located a hidden cellar down below to recover a pestle. Outside, my wand was useless in combat at this range, so I played with my staff and managed to two-shot an enemy. There were more, and upon looting it, I found a shroud sack. I needed these to craft a new glider. I even popped a few ghouls with my staff, level 15s, but I slipped off the edge and landed in a pit of enemies. Soiling my robe, I ran as fast as I could. Luckily, only 2 followed me. That was close. Back home, I placed the mortar and pestle, unlocking new recipes, including mage armor, but I still needed more linen. Returning to the hunter, I obtained fur and crafted a small backpack, expanding my inventory. And preparing for more linen production, I planted additional flax. Day 42. Today I searched for the carpenter's chest. While I appreciated the new resources and materials these new NPC craftsmen provided, they were awfully forgetful, leaving their stuff scattered across the world. On the road, I killed a Vuka with my new fire wand, which proved really effective. Nice. Back at the alchemist tower, I farmed shroud sacks and used my staff to shoot fiery dingleberries, effective against plants and ghouls. Fire damage seemed to work really well in the shroud. Finally, I sought amber for the alchemist mage set and to craft new fire spells. Day 43. This morning my farming efforts paid off as my flax was ready to harvest. I used some of the crop for seeds and the rest for linen, collecting water from local wells to boost seed production. I also searched for hidden shroud roots on my map for extra skill points. At Willow Crush, I found a new apprentice wand and some wizard boots in the chest, which I could break down for runes to enchant future items. Venturing to a new area on the map and navigating the terrain and shroud was challenging. I got stuck in some boggy mud, double jumped out and popped into a glide into a lake of dark shroud, burning half my shroud timer in an instant. There were so many hazards hidden in holes behind terrain that were difficult to read. Day 44. Today, I headed east to the Vuka Ceremony Hill, where I encountered a Vuka brawler surrounded by shaman healers. Using my fire wand, the boss fight was straightforward, as I could attack from the edge of its leash, waiting for the brawler to turn round, giving it an extra few hits in its backside. After defeating them, I claimed my reward. The new glider was great as well, enabling me to explore further. Next, I travelled north to Glenwood's End, where the enemies were now level 15 and provided a good source of XP. Now I'd gained a few extra levels. Day 45. Today I reaped the rewards of the last couple of days. After collecting more water, I finally had enough linen from my flax farm to produce my desired armour. I was now a mighty leprechaun in my new armour. Top of the morning to you laddies. Day 46. I checked in with my crew and produced items with exclamation marks. Sometimes these indicated prerequisites for further craftable items to be unlocked. I lacked some core ingredients like clay, so I set out to find some, eventually finding a patch near the Revelwood spire. I went out again and found many boars on the road, but they were also vulnerable to my new fire damage. While exploring, I was brought to Thornhold. I wasn't sure if I needed to be here, but my target was close. Before I could find out, I was ambushed. Okay, you know what? Let's pause for a second. Very few of the enemies in the world seem to have any proper names, so if I'm going to share this journey with you, I'm going to have to get creative. We need a name for this horrendous green Cyclops dude. Google. Horrendous celebrity Cyclops. Sharon Osborne. Fair enough. Before I could find out, I was ambushed. Sharon Osborne. She resisted my fire damage, and her fast attack shredded through my stamina like a hot knife through butter. I'd lost my well-rested bonus, and as a result, my stamina was now lower than it would have been. Too low. With the night closing in, I headed home. Day 47. I quickly checked my farm, ensuring the flax was on the boil. Today, though, my priority was retrieving my scattered bodies strewn across the map. Returning to Thornhold, I encountered respawns, including a two-handed bandit. But where was Sharon? There she was, eager for a fight. Utilizing my staff's extended range, I dispatched some enemies and narrowly escaped a blast of my own making. Had Sharon been defeated in the blast? Wait, she survived. Don't do it, Sharon. I have the high ground. Navigating through the camp, I reclaimed my body. But as I entered the camp, another Sharon pounced on me. I tried to brawl with her, but it was no use. Run. Keep running. Angered by the demise of her plastic clones, she wouldn't give up. Escaping to higher ground, I finally acquired the carpenter's saw blade, ensuring a swift retreat. Day 48. With the new saw blade in hand, I could finally construct a table saw, splitting my wooden logs. I fed them into the saw to produce planks, a time-consuming process. Planks offered me the opportunity to craft various furnishings, enhancing my home's comfort level and extending the duration of my stamina buff. However, the allure of adventure often overshadowed these domestic tasks. I assembled a medium chest for improved storage capacity. Although it was all disorderly, the added capacity proved beneficial. Returning to the farm, I envisioned a structured crop growing area and experimented with farm soil, uncertain of its benefits. I struggled with its application a little before, ultimately reshaping the terrain. After refining the layout, I planted flax using the snapping feature for uniformity, concluding the day's work. Day 49. Well, Day 49 had already arrived as I toiled through the night. Today's mission? Locating the crucible left by the blacksmith. The crucible was crucial for the smelter, propelling me towards the Mark of Sameth, a mine I'd glimpsed previously. Navigating the mine's entrance posed a challenge, especially given the scavenger presence. Preferring elevation, I aimed to maintain a high vantage point, which would mean an easy drop down if needed. Approaching the mines, I observed a labyrinth of walkways and gantries, a daunting prospect if I had approached from the other side. I glided down and bypassed many foes. The crucible lay concealed amidst the rubble, which I cleared away with my explosive balls, about the only thing they were useful for. With the mission accomplished, I prepared to return home and conclude the day's endeavours. Day 50. This morning I gathered wood from around the house, surprised by the abundance of resources near my home. With the wood acquired, I could produce more fired brick from the clay, a step towards constructing my smelter. Meanwhile, on the farm, I discovered many intriguing recipes required a fireplace for cooking, an element seemingly absent. Despite attempting to add a campfire, it became evident to me that unlocking a fireplace somehow was necessary. Consulting my quest log confirmed my suspicion. The fireplace quest for the farmer awaited my discovery. Venturing into uncharted territory, I maintained elevation and avoided unnecessary encounters with the shroud. Then I spotted a distant town amongst the fog. I descended to an island with a pier below, braving more adversaries along the way. Within the city walls, beetles spawned everywhere. Taking respite to reset my shroud timer, I contemplated establishing a flame altar for quick travel later on, but there was nowhere here to place it. However, up here was a great spot to fling fiery dingleberries down below. Take that, beetle scum. Amidst battling beetles, I stumbled upon the hidden fireplace inside a flame shrine, accompanied by a nice staff found in a nearby chest. Winner. Returning home, I installed the farmer's new fireplace. Anticipating expanded food possibilities, I could now craft popcorn for stamina regeneration, replacing honeycombs. As night fell, I retired for rest, reflecting on the day's discoveries. Day 51. I was now closer to the end of my journey than I was the beginning. The new cooking pot provided an automated method for cooking meat without needing to tend to a campfire manually. Although convenient, the cooking process was slow. Day 52. Today I aim to clear the remaining question marks on my map, uncovering hidden locations. These objectives always seem to push me in the right direction, ensuring I made decent progress throughout the map at the correct times and helping me find new resources, so they were always worth checking out. Venturing into a cave to locate a Shroudbrute, there were many pigs trapped down here of whom I liberated for their bacon. I approached the Shroudbrute cautiously. They were usually well guarded, but instead I was bested by a pig, leaving me on low health. Surprisingly, the Shroudbrute lacked significant defenses, allowing me to claim it and earn a skill point. Back home, I stocked the hunter's campfire with more boar meat, although its slow cooking pace struggled to keep up with my growing inventory of uncooked meat. Day 53. Today I set out westward to uncover hidden objectives. I climbed as high as possible to spot their locations, earning another level in the process. Now, at level 13, I had no idea where this question mark was supposed to be, and I feared heading too far down, as it was always a nightmare trying to get back up again. Yet the waypoint marker kept telling me I was too high. After a fruitless day of searching, I realized the cave I sought lay at the bottom of the Devil's Toilet Bowl, concealed within the shroud. Cautious of the dark shroud pools, I navigated and discovered a Shroudbrute, earning another skill point. Returning home, I expanded the chamomile farm before calling it a day. Day 54. Venturing north towards Pike's Reach, I saw this cool ancient bridge with a backdrop of deadly shroud beyond it. It looked perilous down there, and being a seasoned pro at having gliding accidents, I trod carefully. Amidst the hazards, I stumbled upon another Shroudbrute, enhancing my skills with an extra skill point before entering Pike's Port. Just a few. Right, 1 second guys, I need another name. This two-handed sword dude. Let's get Google involved. Famous two-handed celebrity. Oh, we've got a selection. Hugh Jackman. That'll do. Just a few Hugh Jackmans and a Legolas to deal with. That was until I met this dude, armed with a sword in one hand and the dining room table in another. He swept in with a lunge attack, giving me a derp nap for the evening. Realizing the need for a closer respawn point, I placed a new flame altar nearby. Now to find the dude with the dinner table, but I only found Hugh Jackman waiting for me. Navigating through Pike's Port proved daunting, with battles against Legolas, plants and beetles. Though my respawn location was closer, the area remained infested, making retrieval of my items a harrowing ordeal. Day 55. This morning I fetched water from the various wells for the farm. I'd grown in power and strength since the early days, sending a level 3 wolf to the cleaners. After watering the seed beds, I stumbled upon bandages. I'd ignored them for so long, suddenly realizing their superior healing properties. 4% health a second compared to the strawberries' 3. I stocked up on bandages, crafting them with string and torn cloth. With chamomile harvested from the farm, I brewed healing potions using honey. After that, I decided to venture back to Pikemead's Reach. First, I had to deal with Legolas over there, but then I was swarmed by a pack of beetles. Hugh Jackman, you... Back I went, grabbing my items, narrowly missing Hugh's blade. I tried to heal up, but paid the price. This place was mental. This time, I dealt with Hugh first, then Legolas. Feeling disorientated, I climbed until I reached a bridge and shimmied across, discovering a gate leading to the Imperial Gardens. Despite my attempts to break in, I had no luck until I discovered a hidden entrance round back. I glided down to the courtyard to unlock the front door. The fell Wispwyvern, Dr. Thunderbrute's pet dog. I realised I was ill-prepared for a boss fight. My wand was almost broken. Well, that went well. Annoyingly, the journey back was a proper chore. I wondered if I could get the altar closer to this boss. Frustrated and fatigued, I repaired my gear and returned, determined to try again. The journey back was killing me, but I persisted, but ultimately decided to regroup and tackle the challenge with fresh eyes tomorrow. Day 56. Realizing the upcoming fight would be challenging, I aimed to relocate my flame altar closer for quicker access. Although unable to place it within the town or the shroud, I found a suitable spot and set up a crafting bench for gear repairs between battles. Beginning the fight again, I noticed the wyvern resisting my fire damage, but as long as I kept moving and wanding, things seemed to be okay. That was close. Quick potion to replenish myself. Despite the wyvern summoning beetle ads, they seemed to die in the sunlight, so I could ignore them for the most part. However, my eagerness to bandage my wounds slowed me down, making me vulnerable. I should have tried healing during specific phases or relying on costly but movement-friendly health potions. I persisted, healing potions getting me out of a tight spot. As long as I survived, I could do this. It was already down to a third of its health, but not before my wand broke. You had to be kidding me. It had so much HP and magic resistance that my wand broke before it could be killed. Did I have to carry multiple wands around just to finish a single fight? Switching to my staff, I noted it was also resistant to ice damage. All I had to do was survive. Despite coming close, I ultimately fell short, out of potions and bandages. So close yet so far, there had to be something I was missing here. Day 57. What a frustrating day it had been. Despite my best efforts, the wyvern repeatedly bested me, faced with the daunting task of farming all of my potions and bandages again. After which, I returned to try again. During battle, I noticed that switching weapons allowed me to target different parts of the wyvern's body. That had to be significant. Was this a boss where I had to disable its legs first or something like that? Experimenting with my attacks, I turned round and it was stunned. I discovered that striking its mouth while it was casting a spell stunned it, providing a crucial opportunity to unleash significant damage, and it was no longer resisting my magic damage. Utilizing my staff for this tactic proved highly effective, delivering a whopping 1,000 damage a dingleberry. Nice. Get stuffed. Ultimately, I didn't even need the potions I'd made. Defeating the wyvern proved to be the toughest challenge yet, leaving me pondering about what other formidable foes awaited me in later levels. Day 58. I was nearly ready to strengthen my flame altar. I was short on a few materials, prompting me to start gathering copper from a nearby mine until my pick broke. While waiting for copper bars to finish smelting, I revisited the northern areas to clear up new locations on my map, one yielding a new scorching wand, a welcome find. Returning to Pike's Port, I explored the various floors of buildings, encountering shroud-ridden cellars, witches, and peculiar predicaments, and attic spaces with puzzles and loot, dispatching ghouls. Spotting another shroud route, I remembered the likelihood of it being heavily guarded, so I preemptively fired dingleberries into the mist with my staff. Confident the coast was clear, I continued my exploration. But it wasn't. Fell Thunderbrute, you sneaky bogan. I spent the next 2 minutes desperately kiting him back and forth. Eventually, I found this sneaky area where I couldn't be hit, so I nuked him from behind the wall. Ah man, here comes the dinner table. Luckily, the staff's area of effect damage dealt with these guys a little more efficiently than my wand. Alas, another route cleared. Day 59. Heading north for one last mission, I sought a strange hidden letter within Pike's Port. With some shroud routes cleared, the shroud was thinner, but not by much. Making my way to the battlements, I dispatched beetles below and engaged a fell Thunderbrute and his pet beetles from afar. However, when a screecher joined the fray, I realized I'd bitten off more than I could chew, prompting a hasty retreat that led me to tumble into the shroud below. Jumping and gliding repeatedly, this was getting dangerous, but I survived, somehow. As I ascended, I cautiously searched for the fell Thunderbrute, eventually spotting him atop a house. Despite a frustrating moment where my character moved forward while firing my staff, I capitalized on a distraction as the Thunderbrute focused on repairing a fence, sealing his fate. Discovering that final letter led to some worthless armor. I collected it along with the others. With newfound levels and skill points, I unlocked the blink ability in my skill tree, eager to test it out in combat, replacing my stamina-draining dodge roll. Day 60. With Pike's Reach behind me, I ventured south, noting how areas once surrounded by a deadly shroud now turned blue as my flame altar grew stronger. Approaching another shroud route, I anticipated encountering a few ghouls along the way, including beetles and a fell witch. Having cleared the route, I continued east. I hadn't been this way before, testing out my new dash ability. Nice. I discovered an ancient obelisk granting an additional character level and encountered environmental puzzles leading to the Pillars of Creation research site, uncovering clues about a dragon sword and masonry tools for the carpenter. I concluded my adventure for the day, resolving to bring an altar with me for my next journey to avoid backtracking. Day 61. With the new masonry tools, I could expand my building options, including constructing water wells to alleviate the need for constant travel to retrieve water for farming and potions. However, just as quickly as I acquired new tools, it seemed my slaves had misplaced more items, tasking me with retrieving them. Thanks, guys. I returned to the Pillars of Creation. I encountered a VUCA area, along with another brawler, to whom I gave a friendly wanding. Though the brawler proved vulnerable to my fire wand, its short range left me feeling vulnerable, too close for comfort. Despite this, these slow opponents were relatively easy to deal with. As the sun began to set, I placed an altar for fast travel home, marking the end of another day's adventure. Day 62. I found a new outpost guarded by raiders. After searching for a few clues, I was directed to find a missing shipment. This was all part of one of the blacksmith's quests. He'd lost something again. I glided to the nearest shroud island, taking the high ground first, just in case. I circled into the shroud below, finding a few more clues. I was led deeper and deeper into a location I hadn't explored before, the Umber Hollow. It's not like anything bad had happened before, so I decided to take a shortcut with the glider, which I regretted immediately. Upon my return, however, I did at least find the blacksmith's tools. Day 63. Once again, I journeyed eastward, spending most of my day scouting points of interest and revealing new areas on the map. One notable discovery was Raven's Keep, a fortress-like structure near a marked point of interest. Approaching the gate, I encountered my old friend, Sharon Osborne, once again. I narrowly managed to evade her this time. Inside the keep, I found myself navigating through an intricate network of hallways resembling some sort of prison. Increasingly relying on the power of my staff, I pressed onwards, appreciating its superior range and durability compared to my wand. Descending deeper into the keep, I found buttons unlocking doorways leading to loot further into the depths. Sharon surprised me once again. Damn it, Sharon, you're a menace. Finally, I discovered a VUCA cave system, earning me another level. After leaving the keep, I ventured south to unexplored territory. It was getting late, so before leaving, I placed an altar for future exploration. Day 64. Upon my return the next morning, I continued to explore. At the back of the scavenger camp lay the arena, where I cautiously stayed on high ground to avoid any surprises. As expected, Sharon Osborne and the scavenger matron awaited me. I targeted them both from above with dingleberries from my staff, prioritizing Sharon, then the matron. The matron held the farmer's almanac of seeds, while a chest contained a new building material for future projects. I contemplated building a house further east with my newfound knowledge and building materials I collected, but I still had so much to complete on my to-do list. After fast traveling back and extinguishing the flame altar, I spent the rest of the day exploring more of the map before returning home to place the farmer's almanac. Day 65. The following day, I resumed my exploration of the edge of the continent, traversing the Nomad Highlands. The central shrouded area of the Umber Hollow stood out, hinting at further exploration opportunities below. After gaining another level from encounters with the VUCA, I focused on exploring the high ground, avoiding the Umber Hollow for the time being. I stumbled upon Lupus Lair, another scavenger camp, where I encountered yet another scavenger matron. Opting for the high ground's advantage once again, I dispatched her swiftly despite the challenges posed by my staff's animation nudging my character forwards. My reward for defeating the matron was a tanning station and a Fowler's chest piece, offering better melee protection and stamina benefits compared to my current attire, which prioritized mana. After a quick repair and donning my new chest piece, I explored around the Umber Hollow, discovering a potential location for the alchemist's cauldron, Rattlebleak. Excited by the prospect of unlocking wizard-related items, I ventured forth. However, Rattlebleak only held a clue that directed me towards the shroud. Surrounded by massive bones, determined to find the cauldron, I braved the Cradle of Dusk, where I encountered a lumbering creature with range damage attacks, a fell monstrosity, fell Thunderbrute's late mother. Utilizing my fire staff, I dispatched it with relative ease. After the Wispwyvern, I was expecting a tougher challenge, before finally reaching the cauldron. Despite the approaching night, I pressed on to explore the nearby ancient tower of the Nomad Highlands. Inside, environmental challenges awaited me, requiring precise timing for sprints and jumps. Eventually, I reached the top of the tower, uncovering new map locations before returning home for a well-deserved rest. Despite the fell monstrosity's head in my possession, I needed more resources to upgrade my flame altar. Many were unfamiliar to me. I decided to fully explore the Umber Hollow, considering it might hold the things I'd overlooked. While contemplating my next move, I completed the alchemist station after finding the cauldron. Returning to the spire, I decided to investigate the huge ribcage I'd seen earlier. A good place as any to look for fossilized bone. It turned out to be a fruitful endeavor. Unsure about the other items, I resolved to gather every plant and mineral I came across. I had to need one of them at some point. Another visit to the Umber Hollow seemed necessary. Surprisingly, finding mint mushroom meat was straightforward. It came from cacti and trees, while I also stumbled upon some tin. Satisfied with my progress, I headed home for the day. Day 67. Continuing my search for resources, I returned to the Umber Hollow. While exploring, I encountered some ghouls near a Enshrouded, which I swiftly dealt with to earn a skill point. However, this wasn't what I was looking for. Pressing on, I stumbled upon what seemed to be another elixir well, likely with a Enshrouded nearby. Among the enemies present were a couple of coffee tables and a screecher, each posing their own challenges. Despite reaching level 20, I stayed focused on my objective. Soon after, I encountered a group of walking mushrooms. Opting for the high ground, I dispatched one and obtained an ammonia gland, one of the resources I needed. Realizing I needed more of these mushrooms, I sought out the others. Upon returning home before dark, I realized the only thing left was rooibos, a plant that I had found in the highlands. I had already prepared some seedlings earlier in the week, and they were now ready for planting. Once these had grown, I had everything I needed to strengthen the flame once more. Day 68. The next day arrived quickly, and I was determined to press on. However, I realized I still needed more sparks. I wondered if unlooted flame shrines yielded a higher number of sparks. I pushed to find these untapped shrines, relying solely on my memory as they all looked the same on the map. While looking, a hyena lay in ambush for me inside this rock. However, it thwarted me by burrowing through the earth. That hyena was a crafty one. I continued on, grabbing a Enshrouded in a nearby cave. Eventually, I returned home, spending several skill points I had accumulated from felling Enshroudeds. I chose to increase my time in the shroud as it felt beneficial, having already maximized most of my wizard trees. I farmed rooibos and upgraded the altar to level 5. With the flame strengthened, I could venture into shrouds that would previously kill me, allowing me to progress farther east. Day 69. With my strengthened flame altar, I continued east into unexplored territory, eager to uncover new regions before nightfall. Along the way, I encountered a new enemy, a chicken dragon. These creatures hit hard, threatening to deplete my stamina, but I discovered I could overpower them with focused bursts of attack. In the scavenger town of Brittlebush, bloody hell, it was Sharon again, exuding her usual confidence. By evening, I returned home and checked in with the alchemist. Discovering new sets of armor took me by surprise, but it wasn't a bad problem to have. I even had most of the materials needed for a magician's set, although I required an alchemy laboratory, which meant smelting some metals. Day 70. Today was all about gathering resources. Copper for crafting, ensuring an ample supply of flax for mage armor, and cutting wood to produce charcoal, as well as processing some sand for glass. I also needed to top up on salt, so I headed to the Egerton salt mines. I had fond memories of this place, mainly because of how challenging it was when I first arrived. Now though, with my increased power and skill, enemies fell quickly, making exploration much easier. With everything gathered, smelted and refined, I finally finished my alchemy lab as night fell. Day 71. With all the resources crafted this morning, I finally put together my magician's gear set. Nice. I fast travelled to the Kindlewastes flame altar over Brittlebush. I hadn't explored much of the town despite having my altar there for a while. With a few markers nearby, this was my best opportunity. As usual, I took to the high ground. Sharon had been waiting for me. Every time I slung a dingleberry, it pulled me closer into danger. Inside, I discovered desert walls for building, then continued my exploration. I found a temple. It was dark inside, making it difficult to spot enemies, but I ventured in. I used the shock damage wand to spare my fire wand some durability damage. Encountering a dinner table in the darkness confirmed my suspicions of potential danger. His charging intercept was luckily blocked. Deeper into the temple, the shroud thickened, and the more dinner tables hidden wait. I kept my distance and peppered them with my wand. I reached a final door that required pressing buttons before entering. Was that a screecher? A fell sickle scythe? Dr. Thunderbrute's ex-girlfriend. She hit hard. I tried to take cover and swig a health potion, but it was no use, and her attacks seemed to lock on, making dodging a pain in the plums. But if she wanted to play dirty, let's play. I hid defensively near the doorway on the edge of her leash, spamming her with fire until she was defeated. I acquired her head, which I could probably use to upgrade my flame altar once more. Then headed home. Day 72. Today I ventured north of the spire, still with much of the map shrouded in fog. Following the path, I collected plants and shrubs along the way. Arriving at another scavenger town, East Lapis, I remained elevated, attacking from above with dingleberries of ice to avoid the risk posed by a level 25 Sharon below. As I continued this strategy, mana consumption became a concern, especially as I started to use my staff more and more. Gradually, I cleared out enemies and explored the buildings. Inside one, I found a loom, likely dropped by my hunter slave. Upon returning home, these discoveries unlocked a new item at the alchemist's, a legendary glider. Day 73 and 74. To craft the hunter's loom, I needed tin to smelt into tin bars, which in turn could be used to smelt bronze. The loom could weave flax into linen more efficiently, costing only 2 flax per linen instead of 3. My task was finding the beehive smoker. Brittlebush was our destination, conveniently located near my flame altar. However, before I could proceed, I was ambushed by Sharon. Here she is, 140 damage. All I could do was run and one spam, but whenever I turned, there she was. Finally defeating her, I continued to deal with her raider companions, but jumping to avoid a grenade, I activated my glider. Not again. Another glider-related mishap. At least I didn't land in the dark shroud this time. This wasn't where I wanted to be. Now I would need to learn to make my way back up. In the end, I found myself at my destination, the faraway Frey Tavern. Out of nowhere, a scavenger dropped a superhero landing through the ceiling and opened fire, quickly joined by another Sharon. I tried blocking this time. This was working. Was this because I'd upgraded my shield since the last time I tried to block her? Maybe the block value was higher. Of course, damn it. I'd been scared of Sharons for so long. Well, you live and learn. After retrieving a note from the tavern door, I moved to the next part of the quest, also grabbing some desert city wool from a silver chest. Heading north, I encountered another Sharon, but my shield held up against her attacks. Get stuffed, Sharon. Following a clue from a fallen Vuka, I ventured northeast to a Vuka camp, where their susceptibility to fire made them easy targets for experience. Eventually, I reached Vuka's Sacrifice Hill and faced a brawler. I hid in a cave, thinking I could cheese the fight for an easy win, but he followed. His mother must have been a badger, his attack furrowing him through the wall. I pushed further into the cave. He was stuck. He had to be. You've got to be kidding me. I wasn't prepared for this. I almost had him, but I was flanked by one of his Ewok minions. I returned once more, this time taking the high ground. Unless his father was a sparrow, I'd be fine up here. I used my fireballs, but I was running low. I made a huge batch of them back when I fought the fell Wispwyvern, but my supply was running dry. Yep, all gone. Pants. My wand couldn't reach. Instead, I would finish him with arrows. The brawler had a beehive smoker in his pocket, but alas, it was mine now. Day 75. To enhance my stamina regeneration, I built a beehive to produce honey from sugar and water, then proceeded to find the Hearts of Iron quest. I fast-travelled to the Kindlewastes spire. There were strong patches of deadly shroud here, so I had to be careful not to have another chlorophyll glider accident. I glided to Ridgeback Mine, encountering a shroud root and numerous beetles. Unfortunately, my first attempt ended in defeat, prompting a return home for bandages. Upon my return, I spotted the perpetrator of my demise, a sickle scythe. I engaged her from range using lightning, evading her slow skull attack, but it simply looped round and continued to follow me. The scythes also homed in on my location, finishing me quickly. I returned home to resupply. only to discover all my eternal spells were now available and I hadn't even noticed. Time to rectify this. I had another go against the sickle scythe, but her sides carved me up like a bin bag full of Christmas decorations. I took a further attempt until I finally defeated her. Again it was sloppy. I had to figure out how to fight her properly. I chopped the root, giving me some reprieve from the shroud. Day 76. Determined to overcome my previous defeats, I was eager for a win. I returned to the mines, focusing on gathering iron ore while evading encounters with sickle scythes. After collecting some iron and gaining a level, I decided to hold off on spending my skill points until I found a safer location. Back home, I crafted several bowls of sugar using sugarcane I had collected. This food boasted the strongest stamina regeneration I had encountered, surpassing even popcorn. Returning to the Kindlewastes, I headed south and found iron deposits in small caves. It seemed unnecessary to face risking sickle scythes in the mines when safer iron sources were available. So after collecting all the iron I could, I crafted a large magic chest to manage my ever-growing abundance of resources before ending the day. Day 77. I set up a huge magic chest. After organizing my inventory and redistributing items among the chests, I turned my attention to crafting a new extraordinary glider available from the carpenter. The resources needed weren't that excessive. Once equipped with the new glider, I had crafted an iron pick and an axe for gathering materials more efficiently. Day 78. Equipped with my new glider, I made a swift trip to Egerton's salt mines. The improved range of the glider allowed me to soar from the spire almost all the way to the mines, eliminating any threats in these low-level areas. After my trip to the mines, I tended to the farm, cultivating saffron, a plant needed for my next flame altar upgrade. Then I searched for lapis. It took some time, but I eventually located a patch high up where I could start gathering it. Then I gathered yucca fruit, which I found dropped from palm trees, though the drop rate was low. Luckily, I only needed one to start growing them on the farm plot. However, upon trying, I realized that the yucca trees required a lot of space to grow, so I had to plant them far apart, taking up valuable farm space. With everything I needed for the next altar upgrade growing, I was ready to proceed. Day 79. My flame altar upgrade was progressing smoothly, and my yucca trees were growing. Slowly, I realized I might need superior fertilized farm soil instead of using regular farm soil to grow crops in. Day 80. As dusk approached, I harvested my yucca trees. Now all I needed was a spare sickle scythe head to complete the last level of my flame altar, extending my shroud timer to a whopping 10 minutes and granting me another attribute point. Day 81. Today I ventured south in search of an even newer glider highlighted on my map, the Ghost Glider. The journey led me to Scatterbone, a town connected to a tall temple. Cautiously, I placed a flame altar nearby for respawning and explored the tower. Suddenly, a surprised chicken dragon flew in through an open window. These things were worse than wasps. Despite activating all the buttons and making my way up the temple, the darkness outside prevented me from completing the final environmental puzzles. I decided to continue my exploration the next day, retracing my steps. Day 82. The next morning I returned to my altar and entered the temple, appreciating the shortcut it provided. With daylight aiding my climb upwards, I solved the environmental puzzle and claimed the glider. I utilized my new glider and the newly unlocked updraft ability to soar down the cliffside. As I journeyed north, I was ambushed by another chicken dragon, but upon returning to collect my body, I noticed there was something on top of a rocky outcrop. It looked like a gold chest. Winner, a level 25 weapon laid inside. Remembering my old experiments in Willow Crush where the chests respawned when you logged out and back in again, I placed a flame altar nearby and tested it. True to my expectations, the chest reset, yielding various items upon each opening. In an ideal world, I'd explore the local areas each day, finding new chests that way, but with chests out in the open like this, it was hard to resist the temptation. Day 83. Today mirrored the previous one, spent repeatedly farming a single chest. By the day's end, I'd acquired a full set of elder gear, along with several staffs and wands. My next objective was to clear the remaining quests in my journal. Following a lead on the map, I reached the Enshrouded and the elixir well in the Kindlewastes. Despite peppering the area with dingleberries, I found nothing. Attempting to glide down, I overshot the landing and faced a fell monstrosity. Damn, this glider was fast. Utilizing cover provided by the root, I stayed behind cover and slammed the monstrosity with dingleberries. I even wondered if the beast would cut down the shroud route for me. Although I sustained a few hits, potions remedied the damage. The inconsistency and difficulty among the endgame creatures puzzled me. Some posed significant challenges, while others seemed quite simple. I retrieved the well-blocked building material and proceeded to the next quest marker. The glider made travelling great distances really easy, and much more quickly. Beneath a broken bridge, I found another building block, adding to my growing collection. Day 84. This morning, I focused on completing quests, particularly one to obtain castle stone walls. After gliding over the Nomad Highlands, I reached a designated mine. It took some time to navigate the area, but I enjoyed using my fire damage against shroud-based creatures along the way. After descending to a shroud route, I easily defeated the low-level enemies and retrieved the castle walls from a chest suspended on a crane. Day 85. Continuing with my quest roundup, I ventured west to the Kindlewastes in search of the notorious scavenger camp, Deep Cut. What a pleasant name. Using fire, I attacked the scavenger fortifications before seeking higher ground. However, I struggled with the speed of my new ghost glider, which made short jumps and glides difficult to control. As I flew over the camp, I unintentionally drew the attention of Queen Latifah and her merry men. Despite their menacing presence, scavenger matrons were easily outmaneuvered, especially from higher vantage points. Returning to the map, I continued to grapple with the ghost glider's speed. I spotted a wild chicken dragon at the back of the camp, reaping havoc, until Sharon Osborne put that problem to bed. I winged over a couple of icy dingleberries to add to the chaos before moving on to the next matron. Next on my agenda was finding the infernal dragon sword. However, with daylight fading, I had to postpone my search until the following day. Day 86. Once more I attempted to locate the dragon sword cave entrance, scanning the mountainside from various angles. After several failed attempts, I decided to gain elevation and glide around to find the entrance. Persistence paid off, and I eventually discovered the entrance to the cave. However, the weapon inside wasn't much use for a spellcaster. Next on my journal was something back at the Pillars of Creation, something near the gates that I'd missed previously. With daylight dwindling, I hurried to investigate and discovered a chest hidden away, a satisfying find. Day 87. With 3 quests left, I revisited a location I had already cleared. I found only a suspicious pile of rubble, leading to a chest, but its contents were too low level to be of any use to me now. Then, near an ancient bridge, I encountered some dark shroud, forcing me to land quickly and confront an old friend, Fell Thunderbrute, easily defeating him for his bow. Moving on to Glenwood's End, I faced a scavenger matron in a relatively low-level area. After some rooftop hopping, I found and defeated her, obtaining wizard pants. Lastly, the quest, Grave Digging, led me towards the Wizard's Tower, where I randomly dug around until discovering the correct grave, completing all my quests except for the hollowed halls. Day 88. In the remaining 12 days, my final task was to build a decent home. My current house had a low comfort level due to neglecting it for so long, but now I had my chance to fix that. First, I needed the perfect mountaintop location. I searched for the highest spots within glide access to all useful areas, and chose a peak between the Highlands and the Kindlewastes to place an altar. I didn't have a specific design in mind, but I wanted something practical and not too large. While a gigantic tower sounded exciting, I needed a space with a practical layout, easy to travel around in, that could be warmed with only a few fireplaces. Day 89. I continued with the build, starting with a 5x5 pattern around the altar for the ground floor. To make the exterior more interesting, I placed walls in different layers. Night fell, but with only 11 days remaining, I had no time to sleep. I was racing against the clock to complete my epic build. Day 90. I worked on the second floor, expanding it slightly over the first. With no clear plan, I quickly moved on to the third floor. With 5 minions collected thus far and 2 rooms per floor, I estimated needing 4 or 5 floors in total. As night fell, I started on the dividing walls and marked out another floor. There was no time to sleep. I paused briefly to enjoy the new views before pressing on. Day 91. The third floor mirrored the first, with 2 rooms and a staircase to the next level. As usual, I worked late into the night. Day 92. The house had a staggered tiered look, blending limestone walls with desert city blocks for added interest. As I worked on the 4th floor, the unique shape of the house provided more space with each level. I added new light sources to combat the darkness, wondering if some tables and candles might make it feel more homely. Day 93. I collected more limestone, needing a substantial amount for the building. This time, I focused on creating a better looking base for the house. I also placed storage on the ground floor and worked on the balconies for each level. Using the terrain tool, I expanded the cliff to make the base location look more plausible. I added a staircase to the main entrance, wrapping it around the building for a more integrated design. Day 94. It was time to start moving the minions into the new home, starting with the blacksmith and his tools, providing him with stunning views over the Umber Hollow. Next, I relocated the hunter to a new room. These first floor rooms felt incredibly cozy. I decorated them to increase the home's comfort level, which was already at level 31. I added extra details to the rest of the house, including Dr. Thunderbrute's head above the throne room, as a tribute to my old friend. Day 95. The third floor began to take shape, preparing for more minions to move in. There were still many more floors to build, with a fourth floor designated for farming, which would need careful arrangement. Nightfall slowed my progress, so I decided to move more minions in, relocating the carpenter and the alchemist. Day 96. This morning, the alchemist and the carpenter were well underway. I spent much of the day experimenting with pillars and balcony details, knowing I had limited time to perfect the design. Initially, I considered making the fourth floor the final one, but as I started plotting room sizes, I realized there wasn't enough space for both the farm plots and the bedrooms, so I decided to add a fifth and final floor. Day 97. Work on the new floor started immediately. To ensure any yuccas I decided to grow wouldn't be impeded, I needed the final floor to be high enough. I planted a test yucca below to gauge its height, but I suspected it would grow too large. So I began planning an open area on the fifth floor like a balcony, which would encircle the farm plot. Day 98. This ended up working out quite well. The yucca towered well beyond the fifth and final floor, but at least with the balcony around it, it had space to grow. Day 99. With only one more day to go, I hurried to complete the roof, aiming to finish the upper floor before the time ran out. To compound matters, I had made a mistake on one layer, leaving the house lopsided. Despite the approaching night, I pressed on, laying out rooms and walls, then attempting to add a peaked roof. There was no time to waste. I had to finish before the day's end. Day 100. After working through the night and into the morning, actually I lied, this was day 101, but you get an extra day for free, so what can I say? But I had finally finished my strangely shaped wizard house. In my 100 days of Enshrouded, I journeyed from a humble noob in a wooden hut, battling rats and out-of-control dogs, to a seasoned adventurer. I now lived atop one of the highest peaks with the finest gear I could find in the world, but my work was far from done. As more content dropped during my 100 days, the hallowed halls lay in wait. More followers were yet to be collected, and just after finishing my adventure, the Melodies of the Mire was released. The next 100 days in Enshrouded promised new challenges and untold discoveries. Where would my adventures take me next? The journey was just beginning.